What's up, leaders? Scott Mathie here from Nix Your Limits, and I'm excited to bring you another episode of the Student Leadership Podcast. And today I get a chance to show you the interview that I did with Riley Brown. Let me tell you about Riley. Riley is one of the most engaged students that I had ever met, and I came across him through a mutual friend, and just how much that he has gotten involved in school and how that helped elevate him in his experience to be able to achieve way more than you would expect from someone at his current status, which is nixing his limits, right? That's exactly what you know that I want to talk about. And so we get to have a great conversation with Riley. He is from Pennsylvania, and he, in his own words, he is a believer in people, a believer in their potential, and a believer in being active in the community. And I can tell you that you are going to learn about how to squeeze more time out of your experience as a student, how to get more involved, and how to be able to achieve more. Riley has had a phenomenal high school career as a student and as a student leader, accomplished some really cool things, but then that's helped elevate him into college, where he now is on the executive council as part of the student body, the student government organization at the university he attends, just as a sophomore. And so there's a lot to learn, so jump in, listen to this episode, and again, please, if this episode offers you any value, please share it with a friend. Please give a comment, give a review, so that we can continue to spread this message and help more students know that you can nix your limits. So let's get into it with Riley. Well, what's up, leaders? I am so excited to be here and bring to you the great Riley Brown. Riley, how are you? What's been going on with you? How are you doing?
Hey, Scott. Thanks for having me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Things have been great. Living the life of a busy leader, loving every minute of it, inspiring people, giving passion to things. It's what I do. It's what I love. Keeps me busy, but keeps me focused as well.
Awesome. It's going to be awesome. And for everybody listening out there, a lot of value is coming your way about being involved, being busy, like Riley said. And so we're going to jump right into it. But Riley, we gave a little bit of a snapshot, but tell us a little bit more about your leadership journey. Like, what are you up to? How are you involved more than just a student? Give us kind of that snapshot.
Yeah. So I grew up in a very, very, very small town. More cows than people, right? And I held every leadership position in my high school. But the organization that made the most significant impact in my life was Future Business Leaders of America. FBLA was the thing that made me into the person that I am. It gave me my biggest failure, but it also gave me some of my biggest successes. And so I took that energy and involvement, and I came to college. I go to Shippensburg University and in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. And I'm currently the vice president of student groups in our student government. So I have the amazing opportunity to oversee 150 plus Greek organizations, leadership organizations, intramural, club sports organizations. I get to see everybody on campus. And I've taken what I've learned in FBLA and these skills, and I've translated that into this new position I'm in. Something I love to do. I love clubs. I love organizations. I love leadership. And this position that I'm in currently gives me that opportunity to take what I've learned and pass it on to a lot of my fellow collegiate leaders.
That's awesome, man. Big things coming, especially you think of like everything going on and you're trying to go through all of the different changes we're seeing here in 2020 and still be able to have a successful year. And so pretty daunting task, but I think you're up for it, right? Well, that's super cool, man, of getting involved so much. So I want to kind of roll that back. You mentioned how you were super involved in high school, a lot of different leadership positions and that kind of thing. And so, I mean, the real short and simple question I have for you is why? Why'd you choose to get involved so much?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ever since I was 6 years old, even at summer camp, I had this passion inside of me to say, I'm watching what people are doing. I want to make a bigger impact. I want to do things different. I want to take what's written down, rip it up, and do something completely different. Something that amazes people, that makes a difference in their lives. And so when I was figuring out what I wanted to get involved in, I kept saying, okay, I think I can do this better and I can take this team that I have, and we can do a much better job. And all of a sudden I was doing that like all these different times. And all of a sudden here I am. I have all these different leadership positions. But I did that because I said, okay, how can I make this better? How can I do things that nobody has ever done? Because when you do that, yeah, it helps you, right? It's a resume thing, sure. But you're gaining skills that you wouldn't have thought of. And then on the reverse side, you're helping people and making an impact and making them forget about their worries, about their problems, about things that aren't going right in their lives. Because when I can make a difference in somebody's life, known or unknown to everybody else, that's what keeps driving me. That idea to make a difference and change the way things have been done.
I love that, Riley. Thank you. And thanks for sharing that, because what I hear from that is a lot about your mindset. Like you think of as a student in high school, and I can feel that from you. I'm sure all the listeners can too, of like, there's just this drive that, I want to help people. I want to serve. I want to do more than just be a student. And so that to me is a mindset thing. And so what do you think, like, why aren't more students like that? What do you think limits a lot of other students from being involved and serving and that kind of thing? Like, what do you think holds people back from that?
I think when people look at a leadership position, let's say for my FBLA, my HOSA, my DECA friends listening in, okay? When you look to become an officer in your local chapter, right? What do you look at? You look at what your advisor, amazing advisors, shout out to advisors out there, right? But you look at what the advisor has written down, right? And you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do this, and this. Great. You check the boxes. And we have leaders, and they are good leaders. But what my suggestion would be to folks is your mindset needs to be great. That's what I need to do. That's about 30% of what I need to do. The other 70% is up to me to say, hey, I think I can make an impact here, and here's how we're going to do it. Now, that's easier said than done, right? It takes time. It takes planning. It takes sacrificing some things in your life to do that. But that mindset that the students really, really need to have is, okay, here's what's on paper, but here's what I want to do. My favorite quote, I was in a meeting the other day, a leadership meeting. I brought this up. I said, leadership is not about what's written down on paper. That's called following directions, right? Right. If you follow the qualifications, that's following directions. But real leadership, passionate leadership, inspired leadership is having that mindset to say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. But that's not all I'm going to do.
Wow, that's super powerful right there. That is way powerful, Riley. Of like, and I think that's so true, that there's the written minimum expectation. Even as a student in high school, you can say written down is go to class and get good grades, right? Like for most people, like go to class and pass your classes. That is that written down. And I liked the math there of like, that's probably 30% of what you actually could do with your time, with your efforts, with your talents and skills. And so do more with it. And I think that's a powerful mindset, that the earlier you have, and I know this is true, and everybody's heard me say this, but we're seeing this in Riley's own life, that the earlier that you start taking action on that mindset, man, the earlier the results come, the earlier that those lessons come. And that's super cool, man. That's there's a lot of power there. And so now you look at like the tactics though, to be able to do that. So to be involved as much as you were and still do the minimum of like getting good grades and, doing your thing of your other responsibilities and stuff. The thing that comes to mind for me is like habits, right? Like that there's a lot of routine. There's a lot of regular action that probably needed to happen. Talk to me about some of the habits that you had maybe in high school or even now that's helped you be able to maintain this high level of involvement.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll tell you, a lot of the influence in my life has been from military folks, veterans, friends who've gone on to serve in the academies. And to throw a little bit of a military term in here, stay disciplined, stay focused. Those habits, it's one thing to say what you're going to want to do. And the thing that I have found out is that when working with people just say, hey, we're going to start this organization. Hey, we're going to do this, and this. But it never comes through. And there's a lot of reasons, right? But if you can stay focused and you can stay disciplined on that idea. You need to visually look. You need to visually look at where you want to be, right? Think of the highest goal that you want to be for that organization, that position, you as a student. And you need to keep working night and day at that goal. Staying disciplined is so important. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have fun, right? You can't hang out with friends and that sort of thing. That's not what it means. But when you step into a leadership position, you have to recognize that you have a responsibility, that you have a duty to people. And the idea of staying focused and disciplined is super important. The other habit is to stay passionate. A good friend of mine wrote a book called The Power of Pragmatic Passion. It's a great book. Joe Batista was his name. And he was an ice hockey coach at Penn State. Great guy. He's a great speaker. And this idea of passion, remembering why you want to serve. I'll tell you a very, very quick story. I was the Veterans Day program coordinator for our high school. And I saw a program that was really in need of leadership and vision and ideas, right? And I wanted to make an impact on the veterans of our community. Yeah, the students of our high school were going to be there, and I wanted them to understand the importance, but I wanted to make an impact on the veterans. So I was focused, right? Focused on veterans. We built that program up from my 9th grade year to my 12th grade year. We were recognized nationally by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, by the Vice President, by the Governor of Pennsylvania. None of that mattered. You know why? I was focused. I was disciplined. I worked night and day on that program with my team. But the last year I did it, veteran, he was a World War II veteran. And he walked out. He had tears in his eyes when he was walking out of that high school. And I get choked up every time I tell this story. He goes, son, I am so proud of you. Thank you. Right? And in my mind, I knew that maybe that wasn't going to happen, but I wanted something similar to happen. I stayed focused. I stayed disciplined. I put in the work that nobody thought to put into it, and I got that end result. And so those habits of focused and disciplined and staying the course and staying passionate resulted in that special moment that I've talked to audiences of 1,000 to 10 people about. I tell everybody that story. But it's that idea of staying focused, staying disciplined, and staying passionate.
Man, that's awesome. That's super cool, Riley. And that's such a cool story and way to be able to be involved and get that impact. And that's such a powerful lesson for all of us to think about, of like, you are making an impact and you can make an incredible impact on someone. You don't have to wait until you're the governor. Like, you can right now as a student, like wherever you're at, if you get involved in some way to serve someone, you can multiply that opportunity to become something really big if you just do more than that average 30%, that minimum expectation. And I think that's a really cool thing. But that dedication, that perseverance, another thought that came to mind as you were sharing that, of like, I often will encourage students in how I live my life too, of like, bring tomorrow to today. Like, how does that far off goal, that skill that you want to develop down the line that you know is going to be impactful for your career or whatever it might be, how can you even get 1 degree closer to that today? And by thinking about it in a today mode, you're empowered because you can take action. So then you can like say, all right, I am going to go and get involved in that extra thing. And like you're saying, I appreciate that. That's always important for students to understand, of like, you don't have to swing the pendulum so hard of like, well, I can't have any friends or ever do anything fun because I just have to be involved all the time in leadership stuff. And like, that's not the case, right? Don't be crazy, everyone. Go have some fun and have a social life. But you could still do so much more. And through some habits like dedication and passion and being able to put the work in, man, good things can happen. And so I love that. And now, as you kind of shift that mindset, what have you thought about that either going to stay the same for your habits or maybe change for your habits as you move from one step to the next of high school, then going into college, like, and continuing there? Like, are there any pivots that you've seen there or emphasis of your existing habits? Like, what's that transition look like?
Absolutely. So you have to recognize that when you translate from high school to college, things change. When you transition from college or from high school to the workforce or to any different point in life, things change. And so something that I literally just found out within the last, I'll tell you, 48 hours, this is very fresh on my mind, that those habits that I had in high school, yeah, they were similar, but you have to tweak them. You have to realize that your habits that you have, those habits that you form, that you knock your leadership roles out of the park with, have to change sometimes. Maybe not change completely, but you have to adapt. And so I would say, yes, keep those habits, form them, write them down somewhere, and execute in high school on those habits. Recognize that you need to be open to change, that you need to be open to some advice to help you form as a leader. I honestly thought, everybody told me, Riley, you're amazing. You're the best kid to come through this high school. My name was on awards and this and that. I was winning awards, right? And I kept that going to college, and boom, I hit a brick wall. Same habits, but I hit a brick wall. And I kept asking myself, why? Because I'm in a new environment. So that transition, or your question about, how do those habits transition? Yeah, they're going to. But you as the leader need to be honest with yourself and honest with your personal leadership to say, hey, I have these habits, but I got to tweak them to the environment that I'm in. Never, ever, ever lose them. Never lose them. Never be that person that gives in, right? And I don't think any of your listeners are like that. But have the ability to tweak those habits, even to tweak the mindset. But don't confuse that with giving up, right? It's about tweaking those habits, changing them to the environment that you're in.
Love that. I love that, Riley. The principle of having habits, yes, is universal forever. But what helped you be a successful high school student, just like Riley's been sharing, does not always guarantee that's going to make you a successful college student. And that's so true. I mean, a quick example from me is just even from athletics. Like Riley's talking about involvement and habits in terms of studying and involvement in leadership positions. But as an athlete too, I made the transition from a high school football athlete to a college football athlete. And I can tell you, it was a whole new ball game of the different way you prepared and trained and practiced and everything, from being an elite high school player to all of a sudden when you're in college, everyone was an elite high school player. So to be able to thrive and take that next step forward, you had to change. And the other example that I use for this is the phrase that I use, is to don't be a cereal box leader. And like what I mean by that is like a box of cereal, no matter where you are in the country, no matter what shelf you go to, the box will look the same, taste the same, be the same, no matter who it's around or where it is or what it's with. And you can't be like that when it comes to be successful. You have to change a little bit. There may be still some same pieces that work in the next step, but you can't just expect that the same version of you is going to work as you continue to make those next steps. You got to grow. And I think we can definitely go ahead.
And yeah, and that's so important, right? That the thing that your listeners need to understand too is like your example with athletics and mine with involvement is that you cannot ask yourself those questions until you're at the top of your game, right? So you're in high school, whether you're a freshman in high school or you're senior in high school, you need to get to the top of your game, whether that's athletics, whether that's involvement, in order to ask yourself those questions. Because when you get to college, when you get to the workforce, it's competitive. It's awesome. And I know the people who listen to this will think that it's awesome too. But in order to engage in a college or post-high school environment, you need to be on top of your game. That's why getting involved in whatever area that interests you is so important. Because you're going to be behind the eight ball a little bit, right? And you want to be ahead of the game. And in any limits, I love your thing, nix your limits, right? Any limits that you have, guess what? They're out the window, right? You need to be at the top of your game by the time you leave high school. And I promise you will be successful. Now, what success looks like, that's a totally different question. That's what I speak on all the time. But in order to be successful, man, you gotta be on your game.
Awesome. So well said, Riley. I appreciate that. And there's been a lot that we've been able to break down here. That mindset of you can give a value. You can do more than just the minimum of what's given to you. Yes, go and seek to do more. But then utilize the habits dedication, reminding yourself of the goal often, reminding yourself of what it looks like to help fuel your passion, and then to continue to get involved and push to get to the highest level of your game that you can, so that you can then be best prepared to move on to the next step. I think there's a lot of powerful stuff there that you've shared. And so Riley, at the end of the day, and you brought up nixing limits, and I love that. That's, you know, what we do about limits, right? We nix them. And so I want to share with you and have you give some advice to a student specifically. Quick reminder for everyone, as I go around and speak and talk about Nix Your Limits and that message, I often encourage students to write on a postcard that I give them. I say, write down that limit that you're going to nix, that thing that's holding you back. Leave it here with me, and when you walk out that door, you're leaving it behind. And kind of a symbolic thing, but I collect them all, and they're all anonymous from all over the country. I have a ton of them now, but I am going to read one to Riley, and Riley, I want you to give some advice to this student about how they can nix this limit. And so, you ready for this? Are you down?
I am ready for this. I'm up for the challenge.
All right. Riley didn't know coming into this that he's going to have to do this today. And so, but here's this limit. This student says, I don't like change. All right. So Riley, what advice can you give to this student about nixing this limit?
I think this was made for this moment, Scott, because if I'm telling you, if I was in your workshop, that's no lie. Exactly what I would have written. 100%. And that is the thing that I constantly work on. That is my downfall as a leader. That's something I'm currently working on. Change. You're one person. You have to realize that. And the best of plans can go south. But the thing about change is that you need a team around you. I have found that when I need to deal with change, the team around me helps me with that. Now, let's say you're in a situation, right, where maybe your team's not there, or it's not a team situation. And granted, teams can help you. They can get you through those times and give you ideas that help you along the way. But it's also a matter of being proactive versus reactive. That is one of the most important lessons I've learned in my life. Proactive versus reactive. If you're scared of change, you're reacting to situations. You're like, shoot, what do I do now? But the best leaders, the leaders, again, who are on their game, are proactive. If you're going above what's written down, if you're going above what is expected, there is less likely to be a significant amount of change, because you're breaking barriers. You're going way beyond anything anybody expected. So there's not going to be a lot of change. But if there is, you got to take a step back. You got to consult with your team. But you also have to remember that you're a proactive leader who went beyond everything, right? And things don't always line up. But if you have a team, and if you remember that you're proactive, if you remember, hey, I'm going on way beyond what anybody expected of me, that's okay. Nobody's going to, and this is the last thing. The people who are nervous about change think that everybody around them recognizes that. I'd be like, I do this event, right? Or I give this speech, and everybody would be like, wow, that was amazing. That was amazing. I was like, really? Because I knew I had 5 minutes and I was speaking, thinking about a time, and no, we didn't notice that at all. You know why? Because I went above what I was supposed to. And even though the change I recognized, nobody else did. So don't sweat it. Don't think that everybody recognizes that there's a change, that something happened. Maybe it's just you, and that's okay. That's a good journal entry, right? Oh my God, OMG, there was change today, right? So it's a matter of having a team, being proactive, going above and beyond, but also recognizing that change might not be as significant or as widely known as you think.
Wow, super well said. That's a great tactics. And so for that student, if you're listening, that you wrote this down, there's some great advice for you. But if anybody else, you can know, hey, if a student like this can nix a limit like that, just imagine what you can do, right? And so we've gotten a lot of great stuff from you, Riley, and I hope our audience, I know our audience has gotten a lot of good stuff as well. And so I appreciate you and your time, and just I want to give you one last opportunity of one last encouragement that you can share with any of these listeners of how to nix their limits, kind of your closing thoughts. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Well, I got to tell you that there have been moments in my life where even my parents didn't believe in the vision, didn't believe, and still don't believe where I want to go. There have been significant people who have made an impact on my life. 2 individuals I can think of, one in college, one in high school. You have to understand as leaders that the people you surround yourself with, as much of a cliche as that is, will be the ultimate success to get past your limits. They will help you nix those limits. They will help you get beyond those barriers. But you have to have a willingness. You need to have a passion. But you also have to go beyond what is expected. Hey, if you're going to what is expected, okay, you're a good leader. But what separates the good leaders from the amazing leaders, which is why I know y'all are listening into this, is that idea of finding people who will help you succeed, and true people who will help you succeed. But also realizing your limits, your doubts, your haters, the people who want to see you fail. You'll look back and say, wow, look what I did. Look what I accomplished. And those limits, you're going to say, wow, those were limits? Look what I can do now. And so in your toughest moments, and in those moments where you feel that nobody's there, that things are going your way, you have to believe, which is my favorite word. I'm writing a book right now. It's called Don't Stop Believing: The Journey of a Unique High School Experience, right? Just believe. Have that goal, have the mindset to get there, develop the habits, whether it's research or from people you know to get there, then have action or execute on what needs to get you there. And I am confident that you will get there. And if you think that nobody else believes in you, guess what? A VP of student groups in a small town in Pennsylvania believes in you. If I believe in you and in the things I have done, if I believe in you, your world is open for you, and you're going to do great things. You have to remember that.
That's awesome. Absolutely. If you don't know what action you can take based on what you've heard from this episode, go listen again, because there has been awesome content here. And Riley, I just appreciate you so much. Can't wait to watch your results. And I know we all are waiting for that too. And so everyone, get out there, take action, and get out there and nix your limits. All right, there you have it. With Riley Brown, how you can get involved more, how you can be able to maximize your opportunity as a student. I promise you can do it. It's not true, the memes that you see where, like, as a student, you can only pick good grades, social life, and being healthy, or pursuing your career or anything like that, and you can only have some. There is no shortages of success. I promise, if you learn to allocate your time to be organized, to be committed, and then to continue to be involved, you will be able to do more, because you can. You can do way more than you think, faster than you realize. You just got to put in the work. And so go put in the work. Again, if this episode gave you any value, it would mean the world for me to let me know, because it just adds the encouragement of, like, okay, keep doing it, right? Keep sharing the stories with so many students out there leaning into their leadership. And also it helps spread the word so that the audience can grow, so that more students out there can nix their limits, and then we can all achieve great things together. So go and take some action. I'll see you on the next episode, and get out there and nix your limits.